I have a lot of authors that I interview. As you know, you've been listening to the show for so many years, but every once in a while I find someone that just absolutely hits the spot. And hits a lot of spots. And I have a very intellectual husband, and so I do tend to share some of the books with my husband. But this book, I after reading it, I said, Bill, you absolutely have to read this. My husband's about to do a huge project. I said, Bill, you have to read this. You just have to read this about gratitude and appreciation and he said, okay. And I think he was just doing me a favor. Well, you know what? I needed this book for the interview. I had to find it. I said, what did you do with the book? He said, well, we're going on this media trip. I'm taking it with me because I want to finish reading it. He loves your book, and that's quite a compliment, I have to tell you this.
Well, thank you, and thank him, too.
I will. Well, let me just say, the name of the book is The Physics of Science, Getting the Car You Want from the Universe You Live in. Now, it's not about a car, but it's about getting what you want from the universe you live in. And I don't know, I mean, I know that you're an engineer, you're a surveyor. I mean, you've done a lot of things that are not in my field would be psychological. I mean, that's not what someone who wrote this book would really have a degree in psychology, but not necessarily. You bring the physics, the whole idea of what physics is, to your thinking, and it's amazing. So let's kind of just get through this. Tell me, first of all, why I know you wrote why, but tell me why you decided to write this book.
I always joke about that. I always say I wrote the book out of self-defense. I was a young man, and I actually proved to my own satisfaction that success principles work. I went out and read a couple of books, and the story is in there about what happened, but basically the short story is I went out and did what they said, and it worked. And the response I had as like a 21-year-old guy was it scared me because it was like magic. It's like, oh my God, how did that happen? And the result, and by the way, that's kind of a normal experience. If something happens in your life that you don't understand, that's good, you tend not to trust it, and that's what happened to me. And I think a lot of people may experience that as well. But I still believe they work, right? And but I stopped using them, and like a lot of people with success principles, I had success, I had my ups and downs, and my whole life, was like everybody else, was sort of a roller coaster. I had a particularly bad time after the dot-com bust back in year 2000, 2001. And boy, I really went downhill. Things were pretty awful, and I won't go into that. But one day I just sat down and I said to myself, you know better than this. Stop doing this. And so I sat down and I actually wrote down all the stuff that was wrong, what I needed to do to fix it. And I have an article on this on my website, thephysicsofsuccess.com, that basically just, I call it predicting the future because I just wrote out the way my life was supposed to be. And it all came true. It took a few years for that to happen, about 2 or 3 years. But what happened was, now I'm an engineer. All this stuff worked. I never knew why it worked. All of the explanations that I read about didn't make a lot of sense to me as an engineer and a physicist. And so, I was actually studying physics at the time, and I kind of made this connection. It's like, wait a minute, this stuff's happening over here. I wonder if that would explain this. And then I started thinking about consciousness after a discussion with my daughter. She studies behavioral neurosciences, and so she's a neuroscientist. But and then I made that connection. I start to talk to people about it, and my physicist friends were all like, "Oh, you finally get it!" But they wanted to talk about particles and energy. And then normal people were like, as soon as you start talking about physics, they sort of check out and say, "Have another beer,"
Right.
So I really just I started a blog and I started writing about it. I never intended to write a book, but it ended up being so much material it turned into a book.
Oh, I see.
And that's where it came from. So
I
actually wrote the book out of self-defense so I could talk to somebody about it.
Well, I don't know if you really know yet that your book, very much like Wayne Dyer's book, when you believe it, you'll see it.
Hmm.
and I wrote that. When I did your book review, I wrote that because that's really what you're talking about. Now, I'm not a person that believes in miracles, as you say, miracles, but I am a person that is very directed. I see something, I put it out there, I believe it's going to happen, and I haven't called it a miracle, but I do have a lot of gratitude, and I do see every day as a wonderful day. And this book gave me so much more power. I mean, your book is very powerful. I hope you know that.
Well, thank you. It works for me. I do this every day. Yes.
What you do is you do lend, for someone like my husband who has his master's degree in city planning. He's done a lot of pretty big things in his life. The part that you brought in your scientific, information, the physics and all that, that really made a difference for him.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I like to describe it as like driving a car. That seems to be something everybody can understand. And the idea is, and I explain it in some detail in the book, is you want to focus on where you're going. In the physics side of it, Einstein told us over 100 years ago, we're moving. All matter, all energy is moving through the universe. The big question is, where are we going? And it turns out, now that we're studying the universe more and more, there's a lot of possibilities, a literal infinite number of possibilities. So literally anything you can conceive is out there somewhere. And the idea is to get there. And a lot of people equate it to the law of attraction, except in a way it's sort of the opposite. Instead of waiting for things to come to you or expecting them to come to you, you're actually bringing yourself to that place in the universe where it exists. And if you relate it to driving a car, if you want to stay in the lane and go where you're going, you look out the windshield, right? If you start looking out the passenger window, your car's going to drive into the ditch if you don't hit something else first. And we tend to go where we look. And the idea behind success principles, all of them that are written in many, many, many books, is to focus your mind on your goal, on your destination. And the physics of success explains how that destination is actually a literal physical place in the universe.
Yep, that's well said. And of course, I'm a science fiction aficionado. I mean, I love A Stranger in a Strange Land. I love a lot of the things, and sounds like you love that kind of thing also. In fact, I just heard about, on NPR they were reminiscing about Star Wars and talking about what that all was. And I guess I don't know if it was a producer or something was. It wasn't, what's his name? It was the man that, I forget his name now. The one that did Star Wars. What was the famous?
Spielberg or Lucas?
No, it was Lucas. Yes, Lucas.
Yep.
But it was someone else who was involved, and he was writing something all about that. I happen to love that. Now, my husband isn't a science fiction person, but he is a science person. He wants the science. I mean, he has discovered some, like Tesla. He loves Tesla and what he's done, and in fact, my husband wrote a book, and it's on that theory that what Tesla did is it's like a novel, but that you can shake a building down. So,
yep.
But he loved what you wrote, and I think he's only actually. Looking at his card where it was, I think he's probably only on page 69 or something. So he's got, and we're going on a trip, and I know I'm going to steal this book. I actually read a lot more than he did. That's why when I said to him, Bill, you must read this book. It's perfect for where you are now, because he's, as I said, he's on a major project. But let's talk about you. So what do you do right now? I mean, besides writing the book, and you said you just did a second edition, what do you do every day?
Well, I've been an engineer for 30 some odd years, but oddly enough, I have a music performance degree, so I spend a lot of time with music. I spend a lot of time writing. Obviously, over the last 6 months, it's been pretty much a full-time job to do that, and then speaking as well. I'll go out and talk with companies, and I'll go out and speak with clubs. I've been working with a weight loss program, actually, quick weight loss centers in
Huh.
Atlanta. I'll go around and talk with them every once in a while. Because part of my success has been health and weight, and I've overcome that challenge as well. So this applies to everything, like you said. And then I'm also a certified information systems security professional. That's basically a computer security guy. And I do consulting for that as well.
I see. So you are not at a loss of things to do.
I'm, yes, I'm not at a loss for things to do.
And
That has never been one of my problems.
who did your diagrams? I know you have a lot of diagrams in the physics of success. Is that something you had to have someone do, or did you design those?
I did those.
Did you really? You're just one
Yeah,
big
well,
talent. Oh, I know.
Thank
I know.
you.
That's-
Yeah.
it's
Well, keep in mind, I used to be an engineer, so I would draw things for a living. So
I
I
know.
just drew my own pictures.
I know, but they're good. I mean, that took a lot of work to do that. Each little box and each little thing, but it was good. I guess what I was liking is that for someone that isn't a science, major, and that wasn't my field, that between your diagrams and your words, it made it easy for me to understand what you were talking about.
Well, thanks. And I did take a lot of effort to do that. And actually, sometimes people who talk to me will go, "Holy cow, Mike, you need to translate into English." And I said, "Man, if you think I'm bad, you should hear who I talk to." Some of the people in engineering, and I work in cryptography with computer security, and some people, some of the guys who are very, very intense specialists have their own language. Physicists have their own language. And so I've always felt comfortable with the idea that I can translate from one to the other. And I've been fairly successful with that over the course of my career. And, I brought that to the book. But I've always had that in mind. It's to make it accessible to people who don't have a physics background. People who have a physics background pick up on it right away. But if you don't, you'll still be able to get most of it.
Right. And something that I did not know was in one of your chapters, it's Keep Your Eye on the Cat. It's called The Observer Effect. And there's a person, was it I forget, was it Schrodinger or somebody?
Yeah, Erwin Schrodinger, right.
What is that all about?
Well, back in the 1930s, everybody was talking about quantum mechanics, and they were talking about what they call quantum superposition. In other words, and it's actually an observer effect, and basically it's what they were talking about, and it's important to understand that quantum mechanics talks about little tiny things, right? The elementary particles that make up matter. And if you could, like for instance, if you think of an electron, if you want to know where an electron is, you go, bingo, here it is, but then you can't know what its velocity is because now it's not moving anymore. And if you know how fast it's going, you don't know where it is. And so that was kind of the quandary they were in. You could look at one thing or the other, but not both. And so what they did was they figured that this was all due to a probability called a quantum superposition, and once you observe something, it collapses into one particular state. And so Schrodinger built this thought experiment with a diabolical contraption that you put a cat in this box, and there's a radioactive isotope in there, and if it decays, one particle every 24 hours, you put the cat in the box, and unless you open the box, the cat is both dead and alive. That's what quantum mechanics tells us. And of course, that's nonsense. We know that the cat's either alive or dead. And basically what Schrodinger was telling us is you can't take this mathematical model and push it onto the physical world because, life isn't a matter of probabilities. Life is the way it is. But that's the whole thing. And I use that in the book in a few different places to describe how life is, even for us. I say to people, I say in the book, think of yourself as the cat, and the universe is the box.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, something also, as I was reading your book, there are many people who have very serious diseases where they've almost been given, a certain time to live. And yet many of them are able to somehow live, and the disease does not kill them at that point. I was taking some of the things that you were saying, and I got the feeling, because I took Silva's mind control course. Did you ever hear of that?
No.
There's called the
Sounds fascinating.
Silva mind control course. I took that in
Oh, I know.
1974. Yes, he was
I have heard of that.
Yes, he was an engineer, and he came up. That's why I was thinking about you, and it was a great thing. I did it for 6 months and learned as much physics as I do know now, because the course makes you look at the universe, and then it makes you look at anatomy. It does a lot of things, but it talks about the power of your mind and what you can actually accomplish, and you go into the alpha state and all. And I was wondering if that's something that you ever think about, because I don't think you really got into the aspect of wellness or health, or about people who are very ill and they have been able to cure themselves. And that's called energy. Yeah. That's Einstein's theory of energy. I figure, energy, everything's energy. So, if you get that energy moving in the right direction, there can be nothing that's interrupted that kills you.
Yeah, and health and well-being has always been a fascination of mine, by the way. And I've lost 45 pounds. I was really sick, and part of this bad place I was in that I mentioned earlier was poor health. I mean, it was very bad, and now I'm healthier than I've ever been in my life. And yes, it's all in your mind. One of the things that's always puzzled me, and throughout the book, I say things bother me, and then I ask a question and hopefully answer it. And one of the questions I did not put in the book is, our bodies renew themselves. We're a bunch of cells, and those cells reproduce and die. And our bodies renew themselves frequently. And the question is, well, why is it that, obviously our body knew how to build a body. We've got all the materials inside to make a brand new human being. And, why is it that we, can't overcome disease? And the answer is we can, because people do it all the time, even in extreme circumstances. People who are, hours from death can turn around. And it's been documented, and there's a website, I can't recall it off the top of my head, that actually documents all these turnarounds. And, most of the time it is all mind, literally mind over the body. And that's exactly correct. As far as I'm concerned, there's no particular limit as to what you can accomplish, quite literally, with your consciousness, with your mind.
Right. I would think that you would really be on that, as a matter of fact. So let me introduce you again. This is Michael Ciarochi, right?
Yeah, Ciarochi. Right.
Ciarochi. Okay, I got the O. Ciarochi. And he is an engineer. He's a surveyor from Alaska, which is interesting, designing and construction of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. He became involved in mining and metallurgical plant design, working on mines from Sweden to the South Pacific. He has used computer-aided design to use for his talent in that field as a consultant to assist engineering companies in making the transition from paper to electronic media. That's a good one. He specializes in networks and information security for major global corporations. His avocation is a musician. See, that's the part that makes him so very special in my eyes, playing the trumpet and bass where he lives in Atlanta. Well, you you can get this book, and I have to say, this is one of the superior books that we've reviewed, because it's going to talk to you about things you probably never knew, you probably would like to know, and it's easy enough to learn. So it's called The Physics of Success, Getting the Car You Want from the Universe You Live In. In other words, it's all there for you. You just have to know how to get it, and he helps you find those ways. He gives you lots of tips and lots of information. And you can go on his website, which is thephysicsofsuccess.com, thephysicsofsuccess.com. So you are now going to do a second edition while you wanted to clean some things up?
Yes, and yeah, exactly. Of course, with anything, there's always things you want to fix, and not only that, some of the things in the physics of success were, when I wrote the book, were kind of bleeding edge. Not everybody thought that way. And now it's actually kind of accepted, the whole multiverse theater. They just started calling it the multiverse. That's what the physics of success is about. And so I was able to update the physics a little bit and make it easier for people to go reference the information I'm talking about, and also kind of push the envelope a little bit further and get a little deeper into the explanation. So, and the book is just better, in my opinion. And if somebody were to order it, it should be actually available within a couple of weeks. But anybody who orders the existing Physics of Success right now, I'll keep an eye on that and make sure they get an electronic copy of the new edition as well.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Okay, well, let me ask you, are you reading real books, or are you reading only electronic editions of things?
I read real books.
That's right. Isn't that funny? We're going on a plane, and my husband would, he wants the real book.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Did you get a chance to see our magazine?
I went out there a couple of days. I haven't seen the new edition yet, but I'd love to.
But you did get last month, where you were in October, right? You got October, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing this for 25 years, and the new edition is just came out of the printer, so it should be going out today, tomorrow, the next day. But we do a lot of things with handhold. You hold the magazine and you read it, even though it's online and all. And just like this radio show, of course, is online. We're taping it now, but it will be online and people can listen to it. But here in South Florida, people turn on their radio.
Yep.
And they listen to it.
I love radio.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Radio is, I listen to NPR. I listen to a lot of radio shows. I don't know. There's something about it. Maybe it's just in our genes, those of us who are over 50. But I do. I enjoy radio also. Okay, so let me ask you this. The center of the universe, you write, everything you know, everything you feel, every opinion you hold, and every belief that you have has come through your senses: touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight. And so you really feel, we live in an environment. So if we come from a certain kind of family, and it sounds like you're Italian, I'm sure lots of things that you knew and know, and that's probably why you got overweight. You ate all that good pasta. And so a lot of that does come from what surrounds us.
Yes, absolutely. And when you really stop and think about it, it's almost frightening, because it literally, everything you know, everything you believe is the stuff that's come in your ears or in your eyes, stuff we learn in school, movies we watch, TV, books we read, everything. And, so it all makes up this very unique person. Each one of us is different. Even though we may go to the same movie, we may very well see different things. And, and I have a little section in the book where I describe that. And, as a consequence, nobody really has the same experiences in it as anybody else. And so every single person is really the center of their own universe. And some of us have universes that overlap with others, and sometimes we don't overlap hardly at all. So, that's the point behind that. And to understand, and I make a point, if you are fully and completely telepathic with somebody, let's say, and I say you go to Norway, even if you could read somebody's mind, you would have no idea what they're thinking, because you don't know how to speak Norwegian. So it's very, I find that to be very, very intellectually stimulating to realize that we have such a limited amount of knowledge. And the reason I put that in there is to help people, open people's minds to the fact that there's a lot of stuff we don't know.
Oh, yes. And the other thing that, I don't know if it was in your book that I read it, but somewhere, that nothing is new. Everything sounds like it's new. It's just newly discovered, but it's all out there. It's not new. Is that something I read in your book?
Yeah. No, you probably read it elsewhere, but it's in my book as well. Yeah, it's like nothing. I don't have anything in the book that you can't go out and find um, with a Google search engine, right? You could probably Google every little statistic and fact I put into the book and find that somebody else has written and discussed it. The idea is to actually pull these different pieces in and create something new out of it, which is what I've tried to do.
Well, Mike, I have to tell you, and I was saving this towards the end. Um, I have always wanted to see the Harry Potter movies and know more about it. But my husband is, he says that's for kids. I don't want to do it. So we never did it. We read your book, and you talk about Harry Potter, and you talk about magic. And I said to him, listen, Bill, just read this man's book. He's a smart guy, and he talks about Harry Potter. I want you to go get a DVD. I want to see it. Maybe we won't like it, but I just want to know what it's all about. And darn if he didn't do it. He went and got it. And we sat there for the first one. We did the first one and learned all about it. And when we finished, he said, well, I really don't want to see any more. I said, I understand. I know it's a little kid's thing and all, but at least we understand it. And I have to thank you for that. You didn't know you did that, but you introduced it in a way that my husband could accept it.
Good. Well, what I like about the Harry Potter books, I think one of the things I'm happiest about with J.K. Rowling, she went and sold like 400 million books.
I know.
Do you know how many readers that is? And it's like just so wonderful that she got people to read books. I thought that's great.
No, but just think about, I know we were watching a movie, but a movie is made from a lot of her words. She is a genius.
Absolutely. And I believe, I don't know her story, I'm not an expert on J.K. Rowling, although 3 of my books are autographed by her.
Oh, well, that's great. Well,
I've seen her.
Okay.
But, she wrote those books, or at least got them started, working as a waitress.
Well, I'm going to look more about her, and unfortunately, we've just ended the time we have for this. But I'd like to get you back sometime. And as we read, as we read more of the book and all, we'll know more. So thank you very much for being on with us. I really appreciate. This is Michael Ciarochi,
Yep.
and you can go to thephysicsofsuccess.com. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, Anita.
All right, enjoyed it. Bye.
Bye-bye.